had one eye open, watched in a way here. But if the teacher is really curious about a certain subject, really interested in it, isn't that going to make a difference? I'm going to defer to Rose here for a second. So whatever that one teacher that said the comment about I'm just going to teach what's in the workbook, did you have the sense, whatever her, the subject was, do you have the sense that that teacher, I assume it was a her, do you have a sense that that teacher was really like intrigued by that subject matter? Did she like that subject matter? What do you think, Rose?
It was early on in schooling. It really wasn't anything advanced at all. And one of the things I didn't like about her is she would sometimes just not show up.
Okay.
And because she just decided to take her kids shopping, her own children. And so I'd bring my son to school, or he'd go to school, and the door would be closed, and there'd be a note on it. The teacher didn't show up. And, I guess she might catch up. Stop it, you're ready. So she would just not show up, and I guess she'd catch up with whatever she had to in the workbook later on, but she just did as little as possible with still completing the stuff in the workbook.
Right.
She didn't make the class interesting or anything.
And what was the subject matter? Do you recall?
Yeah.
What was the subject?
It was like second grade. It was just
no, but was it reading or math or something
She
else?
would show up for the whole day.
Okay.
The whole school day.
Do you remember if it was science or math or was it?
Everything.
Okay, so she taught all the things. I see. Okay.
She
So
wouldn't show up, and you have to go to work or something, and your kid goes to school, and the teacher's not there, and the kid has to come home, and you might have to be at work. And what do?
you panic. I don't know. What did you do? You probably panicked, right? I don't know. You got pissed. You got mad, I assume.
I'd take my son. I'd have to stay home with him. I couldn't bring my son to work.
Oh wow! You actually had to take. Wow, that is a big consequence.
Or
Yeah.
else I'd have to leave him home alone. One or the other.
Right, and then we're talking about second grade, so that's wild.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's a really interesting story. I wanted to keep coming.
The administration didn't care. I told them, and they didn't care.
Yeah. So with regard to curiosity, I want to bring up the issue of basically the guiding of curiosity. So I was gonna, it's kind of fishing for you guys to throw this out there for me, but whatever is in the curriculum, we know is generally not created by the teacher. In some cases, the teacher will be part of creating curriculum, but with the U.S., they have a lot of federal guidelines that are just universal guidelines. They have some kind of a proposal or an existing policy called Common Core, which I'm not really familiar with, but I would assume from the name of it that it is to be universally implemented across the entire U.S. So that's the Common Core. Even English and Spanish, like there are schools in which young students, 7-year-olds, will be taught Spanish even if they don't have a cultural context where it would be relevant. It's just everybody in school gets a second language, and maybe they have a choice, or maybe they don't, but everybody learns 2 languages in some schools. So the choice of curriculum, the teacher might have some input. The teacher always has some amount of input, how it's presented or something, but they might have very little. And the choice of classes, again, until certain grade levels, for a lot of classes, it's just here are the classes that you take, and you're going to take reading, you're going to take writing, math, you're going to take science, and you're going to take physical education, and you're going to take music or whatever. Like those, everybody has to take all the same things. There's no electives. There's no special classes for gifted kids or special classes for slow kids, or even maybe if somebody's blind or something, then there'll be a special school for that. But you have different learning styles. So in addition to the different students, I'm just on the subject of the curriculum. We get focused on particular things. So Vanessa, is there anything you think that you were taught that most people in the U.S. weren't taught in school? Like, I mean, you got taught in Spanish.
French and English.
Okay, you learned French and English when? How early?
Middle school.
Middle school.
Middle school, from 7th grade to 9th grade, you take both English and French. and then you choose which one you want to finish in high school. So I chose English.
Okay, so did you guys hear her?
Yeah, she took English and French in middle school, and in high school she had to choose whether to continue with English or French.
Right. So that's an interesting setup, and I'm using I'm trying to use super simple examples in regard to, do you get taught German, or do you get taught English, or do you get taught trigonometry, or do you get taught sewing, or whatever, home ec, auto repair. There's a variety of things that are taught in different schools, I think, middle school is when I first had some amount of choice. So that's when I got electives. Rose?
Yeah, in high school we had some good electives. We had snorkeling and weightlifting, magic mime, juggling, archery. There was all kinds of choices for. That's mostly for for gym, for phys ed, but like every quarter we choose something different.
Okay.
There's a lot of different things to choose from.
Cool. My wife said, was this
baking.
your favorite elective in high school?
I had in high school I had an elective which was baking.
Yeah. So she liked baking.
What, baking?
Baking, yes.
Yeah.
We had home economics class in which there was some baking, but
No,
very little.
Just baking
really.
for 2 years, 10th and 11th.
Oh, she did
Middle
two
school,
years of
we
baking.
had pretzels and coffee cake. That was it. That was the only time I had home ec was in middle school.
Right. Yeah. Very minimal, really. She said she had 2 full years of baking. So, was that baking in a context where you could actually become like a baker or some? No. So it was more for everyday use. It sounds like.
Yeah, it was like
Not
I think it was the
culinary school.
home ec.
Home ec.
Home ec teacher, but for 10th grade and 11th grade she did baking.
Cool.
And then the other option was technical drawing.
Technical drawing. Okay.
Which, well, since I ended up becoming an engineer, that would have been more useful. But I really liked baking, so.
Cool. So and mostly what I wanted to comment on really is curiosity, right? So I like actually going into these long kind of tangent examples, but coming back to the general point of curiosity, I don't think of learning Spanish or English or French as really what I mean. When I ultimately am talking about the rebirth of curiosity, it has to do with the subject matter. So in the average school, in an average high school, in my experience, there's certain there's certain books. Have you been in a class where it was maybe a literature class where you had, here's 10 books that are required, and here's 30 books, and you get to pick 5 out of this 30. And you've got to read it, and you've got to do a report, and so on. But, you get some amount of restriction and some amount of flexibility. Does that sound familiar to everybody? Anybody that doesn't sound familiar to?
Yeah, in high school we had a reading list, and we didn't have to read everything from it, like for the summer and stuff. And but I guess something. Did you have to read in the summertime too?
I don't recall for sure, but that seems plausible. So as we get into books, we can start to think about genres and subject matter being specific. In any kind of a science class, there could be certain things that are taught as really important. Most of you guys, I think, know one of my favorite examples to give is cholesterol. So let's say I'm a 3rd grader in what year would that have been? 1978 or 9 or something. And I'm a 3rd grader, and I'm in a class, and I get a true-false test item. Cholesterol is dangerous. True or false? Now, what is the answer that's going to get me the approval of the teacher?
True.
True, because everyone thinks it's bad.
So the curriculum is cholesterol is dangerous. People think it's bad. I learn to take on the subject matter focus that the teacher provides to us. I learn to memorize the answers that please the teacher, and to repeat them back and provide them to the teacher in a true-false test or whatever other kinds of tests, and a spelling bee. And in the case of how do you spell the word right? And I get up and I say right, R-I-T-E, and they say wrong. You spell right, L-E-F-T. So, or W-R-I-T-E, or whatever it may be. So, in the case of learning how to spell, it's just a matter of what's standard. It is a conformity, issue. Here's 100 words, and it's simply a matter of tradition or whatever convention. So we learned the conventional spelling, and if I spell color C-O-L-O-U-R, I get that marked wrong. But somebody in Great Britain or Australia, perhaps,
That's right.
they get it marked right. And if they write C-O-L-O-R, maybe they get it marked wrong. I don't know. But I think generally speaking, people think there's only one right way to spell a word within this school or within this classroom. Typically, you're not going to get A, B, C, D multiple choice answers, and 2 of them are going to be right, and they're going to give you credit for either one. There's 3 wrong answers. If there's 4 on the multiple choice, there's 3 wrong and 1 right, and that's it. And we look at the answer key, and we don't ask questions. The job of the teacher or the 3rd grader isn't to say, well, why is cholesterol dangerous? Can we look at some research on this? Can we replicate it? That's not the purpose of the class. So, on the one hand, I am saying something somewhat critical, and I could get even more critical in it, in my commentary about schools. But on the other hand, I'm saying something that's like just a simple observation. If you've got classrooms where you have structured curriculum, you're going to have a presentation of here's the authority figure, here's the authorized content, this is what's important to learn or to memorize, to study, to read, and here's the test that determines that it's that you've complied with the teacher's directing of your attention, and now you've memorized how to spell the word color the right way for this classroom, and off you go. We'll advance you to the 4th grade, or we'll send you to college, or we'll give you a sticker, or we'll give you a piece of paper that says great job at the top. Right? In big red, obvious letters. Oh my gosh, the teacher likes me. She's rewarding me because I was compliant. And that's just obvious. I've made reference to cheating, that because of the emphasis on standardized tests, or really any kind of testing format, I had a context where I explored cheating in high school, and generally got away with it. And it's another example that the teacher in that setting, and the school administrator, and the superintendent of education, everyone on up the line, if it's a big bureaucracy, everybody involved doesn't really care about the learning of the student in an ultimate sense. Or what do they care about? They care about certain things more than others. Let me say it that way. They care about certain things more than others. If the student learns that cholesterol is dangerous, they think that's really important. And other things might be considered not very important, right?
Take care that you sit still, pay attention, do the work that they tell you to do, and learn the way each teacher wants you to learn. I remember from year to year, class to class, teacher to teacher, each teacher would have a different way that they want you to do things, and you had to do things the way they wanted, and then you were fine. But basically just going along with the group.
Okay, so it does teach us, as we see different teachers and the different teaching styles and the different discipline styles, we do get exposed to how to adapt to the different styles of discipline. Universal is that an authority is telling us what and rewarding us for focusing in certain ways, focusing our attention and our actions into certain directions, into certain subject matter. And as far as the
Another thing, like, I wanted to add is I think it's like, sometimes the teachers might get scared, admin might get scared when the child has different experience, or when they write a story and it's too interesting or something, or it's fitting within the rules that they set, but they don't expect the kid to know that much or something.
right. No, your report needs to be 5 minutes long and 2 pages long. You need to wrap it up now, right? That kind of thing.
I was thinking of something else. When somebody said to write a scary story, so my son wrote a story that the teacher in the classroom was some type of criminal wanted to hurt the kids. And they were very alarmed at that.
Okay.
He wasn't saying that the teacher wanted to do that. He was just writing a story. They
Yeah.
write a scary story, and he thought that would be scary.
Yeah.
And they got very alarmed.
Yeah, that's interesting. So there's things that can be disturbing to the overall flow of the classroom or the school, disruptive. And in that case, maybe.
Scary. It scared them.
Well, in that case, if he had to read it to the students out loud, I could see how that might be of an issue, depending on the grade level too. If it's like third graders, then that's, that could be pretty scary.
Yeah, I think it might have been like 6th grade or something.
Okay. So I want to come back to this issue of cholesterol, not because it's specifically important, but just as an example of what is unusual, what would be really unusual for a classroom. So, and I'll probably bring in what Rose just said about her son too. So, a teacher says, "Okay, class, true or false? Who knows the answer to this? Cholesterol is dangerous. Who knows? Vanessa, what's the answer?"
Yes.
Yes, she says, or true. Good job, you're rewarded. But cholesterol is very dangerous. Now, Johnny says, why is it dangerous? What happens? What does the teacher say? Like, what's the kind of expectation we would have of, what are the kinds of things that teachers might say?
It's unhealthy.
Okay, it's unhealthy. Moving on, next item, right? Like that?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's completely uninformative. Anything else? Any other way the teacher might respond?
Heart attack.
Okay, they could give a little bit longer example or reference.
Heart disease.
It causes disease. So what's another way that the teacher might respond rather than just elaborating? So the child says,